Thank you. For all of you who don't know who we are Nico and Alex, the founders of Simple Club, and this is one of the biggest learning platforms in Germany. And to give you some numbers, it doesn't stand there, but we have over 600,000 students every month who are learning with us, and in 2015 we were nominated for the International Emmy Award. Normally when we give speeches, we are talking completely about us. We are talking about our platform, why it's great, why you all should buy it, and so on. Today we don't want to do that. Today we want to talk about a topic which is really important to us. And we think this topic is really important to everyone in the world. It's about education. We think that the current state of education is completely outdated. Completely. We have to rethink how we learn. Or to say it in other words, we think that school sucks. Thank you. John. So, first of all, let's go back in history to understand how we got there where we are today, and after that, let's rethink education.
So in the next minutes, we will compare our current system with the carriage so that we can better understand how everything evolved in the last years. So everything began 3,000 to 4,000 years before Christ. Okay, at least that's what Wikipedia says, but nevertheless, at that time, people came up with the idea to teach their children things like drawing, reading, writing, and so on. And then over the years, the world developed very slowly, and also the education system developed very slowly. There were more and more subjects added, and also school became a building where people went to. And then 100 years ago, the first problems arose. Because the goal of school was to prepare the children for society. And 100 years ago, to be honest, society mostly consisted of factory workers who did empty-headed tasks. And then the world developed further, and that was exactly the problem. You saw it here in the video. The world around the carriage developed further and further, but the carriage itself remained nearly the same. And this resulted in a, you can see it, bumpy ride. And then, in the last years, more and more people fall out of that system. For example, let's assume that I'm Max, and I have problems in foreign languages. I need a little bit more time to understand all the topics. The problem is, my teacher does not have that time for me. And as a result, I get bad grades, and bam, I'm out of the system. Or let's suppose I'm Lisa. I have potential to be good in math, but my math teacher in middle class was totally crappy. And now I'm in upper class, there are all the complex topics, and I have no chance to understand them because I don't have the basics. And you can imagine it, as a result, I drop out. Now you might think, Alex, Nico, that's totally exaggerated. 2 out of 3 people fall out of the system? That's not right. And you too, that's not right. But the question is, how do they get through the system? Maybe Max repeats one class, and he's desperately able in the next year to get the grades he needs, and he's desperately dragged along by that carriage. Or Lisa, maybe she has luckily parents with a little bit money left over. They can buy her an expensive private teacher, and she also is desperately somehow able to get dragged along by that carriage.
So we said that this carriage, the school didn't change at all. But you know, it's not true. There have been changes in the last few years. For example, politics noticed, whoa, our people talk about digitization. It's a real thing in our society. Let's put digitization in our schools. Let's create a subject, computer science. Wow. Or they noticed, oh wait, did we forget to put creativity in school? Yeah, we did. Let's put some creativity in school. Let's make a voluntary theater class. Or they come up with an idea, in the future probably, that, oh yeah, we forgot to teach our children about taxes and finances. Let's make a subject about it. So as you can see, as you hopefully see, there's a lot of sarcasm in what we say. But let's be honest for a second, and serious. At some point, we managed to push our children through this system, and then they stand there all together, all perfectly the same and prepared for the real world. This can't be the solution. We think that we have to rethink all that. And so the second part of our talk is focused on the future, how we can change the system.
And when we want to change the system, we first have to ask the question why. Why does school exist? And when we would think about that, we would probably come up with the idea that school exists to somehow prepare our children for later life. And then we have to ask the question, well, what are the demands of later life? And when we would think about that, we will probably come up with things like creativity, flexibility, the ability to solve complex problems, or skills like empathy or rhetoric. So then we have answered the question why. And the next question would be, well, what exactly are people then supposed to learn in school? And then when we would think about that, we maybe come up with the idea that not everybody in this country has to be able to calculate an integral underneath a function graph. But on the other side, we maybe also come up to the conclusion that everybody in this country maybe has to learn how to calculate a discount of 25% in the supermarket. So in other words, there are some skills and there is some basic set of knowledge everyone should learn in school, but after that, we have to have the opportunity to respond individually to every student and his goals.
So after we solve the questions why there is even school and what we teach in school, there comes the most important question, the how. How do we teach it? And now comes the question for all of you. Who in this room has a good answer why everybody in this country has to be able to calculate the rotation body of an exponential function between two values? Do you know why? No, we don't know why. And that's the problem. We don't have a why. That's the main reason why people drop out of college or fail in school. They don't have the motivation because they don't see why they should learn it. It's not because they're stupid. So, what's the solution? We have to motivate people. And there are two ways to motivate everybody to learn anything. Number one is curiosity. Curiosity is the number one reason why children learn something. They want to explore the world. They are intrinsically motivated. So why don't we create this curiosity? But if we can't do that, there comes number two, we have to show the people a higher purpose. And that could be difficult in math, but for example, did you know that calculating an integral could be a valuable skill in future jobs like machine learning or AI? Perhaps that could be a good motivation. So in total, we have to first create curiosity. And if there's no way to create curiosity, because let's be honest, it's math, then let's try to show a higher purpose. And then, if we don't even are able to do that, perhaps that could be a good sign to drop the topic completely out of the curriculum.
The next idea is learn with variation. A few years ago, scientists made an experiment with 8-year-old children in gym class. They divided the gym class into two groups and then they trained them to throw a beanbag into a bucket. The first group was trained to throw the beanbag into a bucket 3 feet away. Throw the beanbag, bucket. The second group was mixed up in the training. They first were trained to throw the beanbag into a bucket 2 feet away and then 4 feet away. So, to remember, first group, 3 feet bucket, second group, 2 feet and 4 feet bucket. And then they did the training a few weeks long. And then after that few weeks, they made a test. Both groups had to throw a beanbag into a 3 feet away bucket. And the results were completely crazy. Because group number 2, which never ever before threw a beanbag into a 3 feet away bucket, performed much more better. And the reason for that was because they mixed up their learning, they mixed up their training. And this is very important. We have to use variation when we want to achieve good learning results. The problem is we completely ignore that in school. We teach our children like the scientists trained group number 1. For example, why do we separate topics into different subjects? First we teach math, then we make a break, then we teach physics, then we make a break, and then we teach economics. A better way would be to mix everything up in, for example, projects like building a rocket, physics, with a hydrogen engine, chemistry, then maybe with just $100 budget, economics, and then maybe the students have to sell that rocket to the partner school in England through an online store. Computer science and foreign languages. We live in such an interdisciplinary world. Everything is connected. Everything depends on each other. Why do we ignore that fact in school?
Yeah, that was a good one, and now comes an obvious one. Learning by doing. It's so obvious. How do you think you become a professional football player? By learning theoretically how to pass the ball? By learning theoretically in which angle you have to shoot the ball so it gets into the goal? Perhaps it's a small part of the routine, but the most important part is to actually play football. And this is so obvious. This is not even a concept. But this is completely ignored in school. There we only learn theoretically. What's the best way to learn a language? By fucking speak the language. What's the best way to start a company? By starting a company and not just reading about it. Why don't we do that? And what's the solution? How can we integrate that into schools? Again, go away from the imagination of thinking in subjects and go to thinking in projects. And this could be the solution, or one of the solutions. Why don't we build a real rocket? Why don't we build a real online store? Why don't we solve real problems and not the usual problems in the mathematics book where 10 features are calculated and so on, you know.
The last idea we have is learn with technology. We strongly believe that if we use technology in the right way, this could have a huge positive impact. And I say, in the right way. We see 4 big trends in education technology in the next years. The first trend is personalized learning. In the next years, technology will be able to create individual content for every student. Today, there are already tools that can generate randomly questions in different difficulties. So in a few years, every children can learn every subject in his needed pace. The second trend we see is artificial intelligence. Woo, the hype word. And a good example is here that artificial intelligence will be able to answer every individual question of a student. For example, through a chatbot. Yes, at the beginning, this intelligence will only be able to answer very simple questions. But just imagine that this intelligence is trained with questions over years and years from students all around the world. Such an AI or chatbot will be able to also answer complex and individual questions. The third and fourth trend we see is gamification and augmented reality and virtual reality. If we use such technologies right, they could really enhance curiosity, interaction, and also attention. So a student could, for example, apply his knowledge through a simulated game and then gets instant feedback and rewards. So to sum it up, we talked about learn with why, to create curiosity. We talked about learning with variation, and we talked about how important it is to apply the knowledge. And we believe that if we use technology right, we can achieve all the 3 results in one way.
So at the end, it's very simple to come up with the right ideas, but as always, it's not about the ideas, it's about the execution. And we think this is the most important part because at first we have to agree on one goal why there is even school. And that's not easy. Because there's so many opinions right now why we have even school that it's a miracle that school existed until now. Even if we solve all the problems we mentioned before, the most important challenge and the hardest challenge will be to make the switch between the old system and the new system. And that's a real hard one. At the end, we want to mention what our role will be in the education system. Our personal purpose is to correct the system itself. We want to ensure that digitization is a means to an end and not the end itself. So at Simple Club, we are currently developing all these things. We are creating a massive amount of learning content, not only videos, also exercises and so on. And around that we build a system which can play out these content blocks extremely individual to every person. And we are developing this further. Also we are using a variety of content types, so we create variation. And also we are using humor to create curiosity. And at the end, and that's the most important part, we try to reduce the amount of time to understand anything to an absolute minimum. And our goal is in the future to minimize it to an even biological minimum. A few weeks ago, we launched Simple Club finally in the United States and in India, and our goal is to provide every student around the world with this kind of learning.
We know that we are not able to change that system, but we believe and we hope that we can provide building blocks for that change. There is a very long way in front of us, and there are, of course, a lot of obstacles to solve. But when we think about that, the end of this way is maybe one of the biggest opportunities in mankind. Because at the end of the day, it's about something that was always part of human being. And it's about something we all together in this room love so much about TED. It's about learning. Thank you.